What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Another Turnover, the basketball podcast where a basketball fan with no basketball credibility gives his opinions on what's going on in the NBA. Opinions that nobody asked for. As always, I'm your host, Mr. Chris Aaron Murphy, aka AA Ron. And ladies and gentlemen, let's just jump right into it. Folks, welcome back. We are week 7 of Another Turnover this season. This is the 5th season, episode 7, episode 87 overall. Like I said, before this season is over, I think I might hit 100 episodes. I have to check and do the math one more time, but we are in full swing in the NBA season. I want to say about nearly 30 games into the NBA season. I know it feels like it just started, but about almost 2 months into the NBA season, and we got a lot that has happened. But a lot that's happened over the past week. But I think the show will be relatively short today. But we'll see. Well, you know how I am. I'm a little long-winded when I start talking. But anyway, a few things to go over this episode 7. So like I said, let's jump right into it. But if you've been watching, we had the quarterfinals of the knockout rounds for the NBA Cup. So there were 8 teams total that made the quarterfinals, and then we had your 4 winners. So let's talk about it a little bit. You had the Atlanta Hawks beat the New York Knicks. Then you had the Milwaukee Bucks defeat the Orlando Magic, which the Orlando Magic without 2 of their starting 5 in Franz Wagner and their best player, Paolo Banchero, put up a really good fight, but ultimately Milwaukee defeated them. And then you had the Oklahoma City defeated the Dallas Mavericks pretty handily. It was close for the early part of the game, but then the Oklahoma City pretty much ran away with it towards the end. And then you had the Houston Rockets and the Golden State Warriors, which was the closest game of the quarterfinals. That was a 1-point victory for the Houston Rockets, 91-90. Albeit some controversy at the end of the game. Golden State felt that there was a foul call that shouldn't have been, which objectively, I'm not a Rockets fan, not a Warriors fan, but objectively, referee probably made a bad call there. It was a scramble situation where they were trying to get the ball at the end of the game. I think the Warriors were up 90-89 at the point in time. And then Jalen Green dives for the ball. Gary Payton the second dives for the ball as well. And then the ref calls, instead of a jump ball or awarding the timeout to the Houston Rockets, the ref calls a foul, which sends the Rockets to the line, and Jalen Green makes both of his free throws, and that ultimately causes the Golden State Warriors to lose the game. So some controversy there, but nonetheless, a victory. Like I said, a 91-90 victory for the Houston Rockets. So those are the 4 teams that will be moving on to Vegas: Atlanta, Milwaukee, Houston, and Oklahoma City. I think this is going to be, great continued national exposure, especially for Atlanta, Houston, and Oklahoma City. Obviously, Milwaukee won a championship, just a few years ago, 2021 to be exact. But I think this will be great exposure for, those young teams in Atlanta. Houston, as much as it pains me to say, Houston is playing some good basketball. I have to give credit where credit is due. Ime Udoka has done a fantastic job coaching that team. And then Oklahoma City, they are statistically the number 1 team in the Western Conference, have the number 1 record in the Western Conference. But they've been balling out. Then they've also been playing without Chet Holmgren, one of their best players, one of their starting 5. But, I think it's just going to be great exposure, continued exposure nationally for those 3 teams specifically. So, if I had to choose right now, so in the semifinals that take place this Saturday, December 14th, you've got Atlanta taking on Milwaukee at 4:30 p.m. Eastern Time. And then you have the Houston Rockets taking on the Oklahoma City Thunder that same night at 8:30 p.m. Eastern Time. And if I had to pick the final right now, am I going to pick against Atlanta again? Yes. As much as, they beat the Knicks, okay, but I don't think they're going to beat the Bucks. I don't think they're going to beat the Bucks. The Bucks have a tendency, at least this season, to somewhat play down to their competition, if that makes sense. If you play ball, that kind of makes sense. So they kind of play down to their competition, unfortunately. But nonetheless, I think they'll have some real problems with matchups overall. So I've got the Bucks beating the Hawks. And then for the Rockets and Oklahoma City, I'm going to have to go with Oklahoma City. That Oklahoma City defense, I mean, I didn't realize how good of a perimeter defender Shai Gilgeous-Alexander is. He's pretty, I mean, he's not, the best lockdown perimeter defender in the league, but he's pretty solid. Lou Dort, I mean, Jalen Williams, they just got some guys, some dogs. Alex Caruso, who they picked up from Chicago last year, they just got some dogs, especially on the defensive end. So I see that being too much for the Houston Rockets to handle, but I could be wrong. I'm also biased because I don't like Houston. But if I had to pick right now, I'd probably say Milwaukee, Oklahoma City, but, not 100% sold as of yet. I need to deliberate in my mind just a little bit more. But I should talk to my wife. She surprisingly picked all 4 games correctly. She picked Atlanta, Milwaukee, Houston, and Oklahoma City. Also, shout out to my friend Jason as well, did the same thing. But apparently my wife knows ball. Did not know that. But there should be some fantastic games this Saturday. I'm very much looking forward to watching both of those. But let's get to some other news around the league. Other news, mostly some injury news. You've got LeBron James, who is out with a foot injury as it's being listed. He missed his first game of the season last Sunday. I think that was a game against Detroit. Missed his first game of the season against them. But, he's listed as day-to-day right now. Next game they have will be, depending on when you're listening to this, but will be, Friday night tonight against the Minnesota Timberwolves. So, I mean, I understand LeBron wanted to play all 82. That was something that he was quoted as saying earlier in the season, but I mean, he's 63 years old. Like, I mean, what can we expect? No, I'm totally kidding, but he'll be 40 at the end of December. But I mean, if he's hurt, he ought to sit out. Like, when you get older, you just can't recover as much. I mean, on a smaller scale, I'll be 30 next May. And yeah, playing basketball and doing activities, I'm like, man, why am I so sore? Why am I hurting? Yeah, you just don't recover as fast. And obviously LeBron, this is his 22nd season, if I'm not mistaken. So if he's hurt, he should sit out. I mean, that's just simple as that. But other injury news, on a slightly more positive note, Kawhi Leonard apparently is close to making a return to the Los Angeles Clippers. He has been out with an unfortunate knee injury. If you remember, way back in his San Antonio days, felt he was misdiagnosed by the Spurs doctors with that same knee. Has had, unfortunately, knee and ankle and lower extremity issues ever really since his departure, minus that year they won the championship in Toronto. But he, it's reported he is close to coming back from a knee injury. The Clippers have surprisingly played decent without him, 14-11 without him, so they've been kind of staying the course. I think they are 6 in the West as of the time of recording, if I'm not mistaken. But 14-11 without him. Not great on the offensive end, which, is to be expected, right? 24th overall in offensive rating in the NBA. But hopefully Kawhi Leonard comes back healthy. I'm hoping that he's got many more years in his career. With that being the case, with what we've seen historically, obviously he has not played over 60 games. He played, I think, 63 last year, but then before that, the only time he had played over 60 games was, I think, his last year in San Antonio, which was in 2017. Well, that might not have been his last year, but it was in 2017 when he was with San Antonio was the last time he played over 60 games. So I'm hoping he can come back, have a healthy rest of the year. I mean, Kawhi Leonard, when healthy, is a top 10 player, in my opinion. I mean, he's shown that on, multiple times. Just, can't stay healthy, unfortunately. But hopefully he comes back healthy for the remainder of the year. But last thing, let's talk about some trade rumors, some interesting trade rumors that I saw come up on social media and Bleacher Report that I thought was pretty interesting, that I thought that I should talk about on today's episode. But really the biggest and only one that I wanted to kind of dive into, Jimmy Butler, forward for the Miami Heat. Apparently, it's reported that he is open to a trade. So I've got the Bleacher Report article pulled up here, and I just kind of wanted to read it here. But it says Miami Heat star Jimmy Butler is now open to a trade to the Phoenix Suns, who joined the Dallas Mavericks, Golden State Warriors, and Houston Rockets as teams the 6-time All-Star is interested in playing for, as his current squad listens to offers. ESPN's Shams Charania reported the latest citing the remarks Butler's agent had allegedly made in league circles. Shams basically tweeted that Phoenix Suns are another team that Jimmy Butler's agent, Bernie Lee, has indicated that the six-time All-Star is open to as a destination, while Miami listens to trade offers from, Dallas, Houston, and Golden State. So I thought that was pretty interesting. I didn't necessarily see that coming. Jimmy Butler, potentially open to a trade. It has not been reported that he has asked or even demanded for a trade, but Miami is, according to Shams, listening to offers. Now with, Jimmy Butler being 35 years old, he's on an expiring contract, if I'm not mistaken, because I think he was eligible to sign an extension last summer or this past summer, and he didn't. They just couldn't come to a deal, but he can still contribute. Obviously, it's reported. Obviously, he wants to go to a contender. He's from Houston. I think he's actually from Tomball, if I'm not mistaken. So that kind of makes sense there. But Golden State, Dallas, Phoenix, he can contribute to any one of those squads. But I'm not sure, though. Thinking of those four teams specifically, I'm not sure how much those teams would be willing to give up, based off of Jimmy Butler's age, based off of Jimmy Butler's contract. I'm not sure, how much they would be willing to give up, especially like a team like Golden State with the young core, Jonathan Kuminga, Moses Moody. How much are they going to be willing to give up to get Jimmy Butler on the squad? Now, that being the case, Golden State and Houston, I think, when looking at their rosters, are probably the best overall basketball fit to integrate Jimmy Butler. But like I said, who are you going to give up to get Jimmy Butler? Because you're going to have to get somebody. Miami's just not going to give him away for, a couple dollars in a bag of chips. But I think overall the best basketball fit with the trade rumors for Jimmy Butler would be Golden State and Houston. But we shall see. We shall see what happens. The trade deadline, I want to say, is first or second week of February. It's usually not long before All-Star break, if I'm not mistaken. But it's coming up fast. So, February is going to be here before we know it. But Jimmy Butler, like I said, is reportedly open to a trade. So, should be interesting. But before we wrap up here, let's talk about the marquee matchups. No surprise here. Marquee matchups are going to be the semifinals, the knockout rounds for the NBA Cup. So you have, like I said earlier in the show, you have Atlanta taking on Milwaukee, and then you have the Rockets taking on Oklahoma City. So those will be the two games that will be going up on my Instagram stories, probably around 5-ish or so, 5 p.m. Central Time. Those will be going up. So this will be the last week for marquee matchups. Winners will be announced on Monday, which Monday is the 16th, if I'm not mistaken. So winners will be announced on Instagram on Monday. So very much looking forward to who pulls it out. I'm going to put everyone who's participated in a random drawing and pick, and that will be the winner for marquee matchups and the winner of that coveted $25 Amazon gift card. But very much looking forward to those games. I think they should be pretty good. You got first game, the Hawks and the Bucks on TNT. Second game, Rockets and Thunder on ABC. But anyway, ladies and gentlemen, that is all the show I have for you fine folks this wonderful evening or morning, whenever you're listening to this. But as always, appreciate you if you could like, share, subscribe, leave comments, all that good stuff. But we've got one more episode for the month of December. I'll be doing an episode next week. And then another Turnover Season 5 will return January, I believe Monday, January 6th, if I'm not mistaken. I think I have to double check the calendar, but that's what we're looking for. So I'll be out for, obviously, Christmas and New Year's. But I hope you have a wonderful weekend. Do all the things that you want to do. Take care, and I'll see you next week.